They are trying to sell us the trails left by planes as geoengineering, claiming that it is in our interest, for our good. Their main objective would be to reduce sunshine to reduce the temperature on Earth, and secondarily to cause precipitation, which they consider insufficient without their intervention. In this film, shot at 1 frame every 2 seconds, meaning 1 minute of film equals 1 hour of real time, the airplanes produce chemtrails that gradually expand to form a milky sky, allowing 30% less sunlight to pass through. Scientists estimate that the temperature difference we feel on Earth is 5 degrees. In reality, the deep state, in collaboration with the UN, Resolution 3172 of 1975, whose executive branch is the World Economic Forum, a private company sponsored by Bill Gates and led by Klaus Schwab, seeks to convince us of the existence of anthropogenic climate change to limit our freedoms or impose new taxes. These climate changes are induced by chemtrails, through which, among other things, aluminum particles or silver iodide are dispersed into the air to reduce sunlight. However, no studies have been conducted on the consequences of such manipulation. Initially, these particles were dispersed only by NATO military aircraft. Today, airlines have found this activity to be a very lucrative source of income. They are paid $10 per gallon dispersed. It is now easy to observe an airplane emitting chemtrails and check on flight radar to find out which airplane and which airline it is. They never miss an opportunity to boast about their successes. Recently, it was reported that they celebrated a spectacular success in the United Arab Emirates, claiming that cloud seeding had allowed them to produce rainfall on demand. However, we are all unfortunately aware of the recent floods in Dubai, resulting from a human intervention that went wrong. Scientists, including 3 Nobel Prize laureates, argue that there is no man-made climate change, but rather that the climate evolves according to its own cycle. Nobel Prize winner John Clauser said in 2022, "The climate science has metastasized into a massive shock journalistic pseudoscience." In turn, this pseudoscience has become a scapegoat for a wide variety of unrelated issues. It has been promoted and extended by similarly misguided business marketing agents, politicians, journalists, government agencies, and environmentalists. The popular narrative on climate change reflects a dangerous corruption of science that threatens the world's economy and the well-being of billions of people. Australian geologist Ian Plimer, a former university professor, debunks climate myths. He says, "The only articles that can be published are those that follow the government party line. If we look at temperature trends since the Middle Ages, it has warmed; since the medieval period, it has cooled; since the Viking era, it has warmed; since the time of Jesus, it has cooled. So, if you take measurements over a few years and make sure to adjust those measurements, you can come up with anything. But if you consider the distant past that geologists study, you can say that for 80% of the time, the planet has been warmer and wetter than it is today, and sea levels were higher than they are now. What we are being fed is therefore a demonstrable lie." In response to the lie of man-made climate change, many people are posting photos of chemtrails on social media. Governments and fact-checking websites quickly assert, first, that cloud seeding does not occur here but exclusively in countries with a lack of rain, and second, that what we see in the sky are not chemtrails, but contrails produced at an altitude of 30,000 feet. These visible white trails are supposedly produced by the condensation of water vapor from aircraft engine exhaust. They are said to consist of water vapor or tiny ice crystals. Their persistence varies from a few seconds to several hours, depending on the temperature and humidity. This lie is easily demonstrable, as you will see in the following videos. During dispersion, it happens that the tanks are empty and the pilot has to switch tanks. During this switch, the trails stop and then resume a few seconds later. However, if it were condensation, it would mean that the pilot had stopped the engines, which is obviously not the case. You will also see in the third video, a plane emitting targeted chemtrails at low altitude where the temperature is not much different from the ground temperature. There is also a video of a plane parked at an airport where the pilot accidentally activated the chemtrails. Moreover, If what we see coming out of planes was just condensation, why then have American states like New Hampshire and Tennessee banned chemtrails on their soil? Many pilots are also warning the public that something abnormal is happening. These pilots draw in the sky, and it is clearly visible that to create the smiley face, they stop the chemtrails and then restart them. There is also an article published in The People's Voice, where the British government admits the existence of chemtrails. NSA whistleblower Edward Snowden unveils HAARP's true purpose. For years, the military prison industrial complex has concealed HAARP's true objectives from the world. They have portrayed it as a benign research station located in the remote Gakona, Alaska, away from prying eyes. However, Edward Snowden's revelations cast a terrifying light on the facility's activities. According to Snowden, HAARP is not merely a scientific endeavor but a covert weapon used to silence and eliminate perceived threats to global capitalism. Through the use of ultra-high-powered radio waves, HAARP has the capability to target individuals' brain stems, inducing deaths that appear as natural causes such as strokes or heart attacks. The victims and their loved ones remain unaware of the sinister hand behind their demise. In this context, Deagle, a private company renowned for its reliability in providing geopolitical analyses and forecasts, as well as demographic and economic data, offers reports on its website about global geopolitical and economic trends, as well as forecasts for individual countries. Deagle is known for its long-term demographic forecasts, particularly its projections of population and GDP for different countries in the coming years. Please consider with me the figures announced for France. Population in 2017, 67 million inhabitants. Population in 2025, 39 million inhabitants. For England, the figures are even more shocking. Population in 2017, 66 million. Population in 2025, 15 million. To make us believe that these trails have always existed, Disney is investing $60 million to edit all the old Disney films to add trails in the sky. This way, those who claim that these trails have only existed for a few years can refer to a 1954 film where these trails are seen in the sky.
Vielleicht noch eine kleine Sache, die das noch ein bisschen deutlicher macht.
Maybe another thing to point this out more clearly.
Ein Patient von mir ist Produzent in Hollywood.
One of my clients, one of my patients, is a producer in Hollywood.
Kriegte vor 2 Jahren einen Auftrag von Disney.
2 years ago, he received a task from Disney.
Alle alten Disney-Movies zu überarbeiten.
To go over and edit all the old Disney movies.
In den Himmel diese Streifen einzubauen.
To put into the scenes of the sky these stripes.
So, when people see a Disney movie
also
today,
wenn dann die Leute einen Disney-Film schauen heutzutage.
Und sagen, well, Klinghardt, du sagst Klinghardt, dass diese Streifenbildung erst in den letzten Jahren so schlimm geworden ist.
And then for example, people say today, well, Klinghardt, you're talking about these stripes being formed on the sky today, only as of late.
Dann sagen sie, hier ist ein Film von 1954, guck dir den Himmel an.
Then they will say,
der hat die gleichen Streifen drin.
Look at this movie here from 1954. There are the same stripes at the sky.
Die Streifen sind ein natürliches Phänomen.
That then convince people that the stripes are a natural phenomenon.
Mein Patient hatte für $60 Millionen bekommen.
My patient received for this job $60 million.
It should also be noted that those who talk the most about climate and seek to restrict our freedoms the most are among the biggest polluters. For example, Bill Gates admitted in a recent interview to spending $9 million a year on jet fuel.
Yeah, so, I spend about $9 million a year, so that I'm buying sustainable aviation fuel and to cancel out my footprint.
We observe with chemtrails, as well as with the pharmaceutical industry or the arms industry, that it is now private interests, generally American, that govern in place of states corrupted by lobbyists under the guise of science and benevolence.